How would you survive as a farmer under the Mongol Empire? You wake up and the horses are already at the edge of your field. Not one horse. Not 10. Thousands. And the men riding them have crossed more than 4,000 kilometers of steppe, desert, and mountain pass to reach your village in the Khwarezmian heartland, what we now call northern Iran and Central Asia. You do not have a weapon. You do not have walls. You have a plow, a clay pot, and a field of winter wheat. What do you do? For the farmers, merchants, and ordinary people who lived between the years 1206 and 1368 CE, this was not a hypothetical question. It was Tuesday. The Mongol Empire, at its height, was the largest contiguous land empire in all of human history, stretching from the Korean peninsula to the banks of the Danube River in Eastern Europe. A contiguous empire means one connected landmass, no ocean gaps, no colonies. One unbroken territory under a single political authority. It covered approximately 24 million square kilometers. To put that in scale, the entire United States fits inside it twice. But here is what the maps never tell you. That empire was not built in the sky. It was built on the ground where you were standing. On your field. On your irrigation canal. On the city your grandfather's grandfather helped construct over 200 years of slow, difficult labor. So how did ordinary people survive inside it, or not survive, and what does the shape of that empire still tell us about the world you live in today? Let us start with the geography, because nothing about the Mongol expansion makes sense without it. The Mongolian steppe, the vast grassland plateau of Central Asia, is one of the most extreme environments on the planet. Temperatures swing from -40 degrees Celsius in winter to +40 in summer. Rainfall is unpredictable. The soil is too thin and dry for agriculture. There are no rivers navigable enough for trade. There is almost nothing to grow. So for thousands of years, the peoples of the steppe did not grow things. They moved. They herded horses, goats, and cattle across seasonal migration routes, moving north in summer for rain, south in winter for warmth. This lifestyle is called pastoral nomadism, a way of living built entirely around the movement of herds and the geography of grass. The historian Christopher Beckwith, in his landmark work Empires of the Silk Road, argues that the steppe was not a barrier between civilizations, it was a highway. The flatness of the Eurasian grassland belt stretching from Hungary to Manchuria meant that a skilled horse rider could cover distances no settled civilization could match. Beckwith documents how steppe peoples had been crossing and connecting Eurasia long before any map was drawn. And Genghis Khan, born Temujin, around 1162 CE, understood this geography better than anyone before him. He did not just conquer. He systematized. He created the YAM system, a network of relay stations spaced approximately 35 kilometers apart across the entire empire, where fresh horses waited. A message could travel from one end of the empire to the other, from China to Persia, in roughly 2 weeks. Think about what that means. In the year 1220 CE, information moved faster across the Mongol Empire than it did across medieval Europe for the next 300 years. Now, back to your field. You are a farmer in the Fergana Valley, a fertile agricultural corridor in what is now Uzbekistan, one of the most intensively farmed regions in Central Asia for over 2 millennia. The Fergana Valley sits between mountain ranges that funnel snowmelt into rivers that feed irrigation canals that feed your wheat. This is called a hydraulic civilization, a society built entirely around the control and distribution of water. The archaeologist Karl Wittfogel, in his 1957 study Oriental Despotism, argued that hydraulic civilizations almost always produce centralized, authoritarian political structures, because whoever controls the water controls everything else. You understood this intuitively. You have never met the man who controls the main canal intake. But you pay him. Every year. And now someone else controls the canal. The Mongol arrival in the Fergana Valley was not uniform. This is the first thing that surprises most people. Genghis Khan was not interested in destroying everything. He was interested in extracting everything, and you cannot extract value from rubble. Cities that surrendered immediately were often left largely intact. Cities that resisted were razed. The geographer and historian of Central Asia, Svat Sausek, documents in his book A History of Inner Asia that several agricultural towns in the Fergana Valley survived the initial conquest with their populations and irrigation systems intact because local administrators opened their gates. So here is your first survival decision. Do you flee? Do you fight? Or do you open the gate? Let us say you open the gate. What happens next is not what you expected. A Mongol administrator arrives within weeks. He does not speak your language. He carries a tablet called a paisi in Chinese, a jaraj in Mongol, a flat piece of silver or gold stamped with authority, meaning he speaks directly for the Khan. He counts. He counts your livestock. He counts your fields. He counts your neighbors. He writes everything down, because the Mongol tax system was one of the most sophisticated administrative infrastructures of the medieval world. The primary tax was called the kupshur, a levy on livestock and agricultural produce, typically around 10%. 10% sounds manageable. But here is the twist. The Mongols did not collect it themselves. They outsourced the collection to local merchants, often Muslim traders from Central Asia called ortak merchants, meaning business partners of the Khan. These merchants advanced the tax money to the Mongol court up front, then collected it back from you plus their profit margin. So your real tax burden was not 10%. It was whatever the ortak decided it was. And there was no appeals court. There was no code of Hammurabi to invoke. There was the paisi, and there was the sword. So let us recreate one of your days in the Fergana Valley in the year 1230 CE, roughly 15 years after the initial conquest. You wake before dawn. The horses at the edge of your field are gone now. In their place there is a watchtower, built not by the Mongols but by the local administrator they left in place, a man who was already your administrator before the conquest. He switched his loyalty so fast you barely noticed. You have started to think of this as a fact of geography rather than a fact of morality. Empires come. Administrators stay. You walk to your irrigation channel. The water is running, this is the most important fact of your morning. If the water is running, your wheat is growing. If your wheat is growing, you can pay the kupshur. If you can pay the kupshur, you and your family will survive another season. You pass a neighbor's empty plot. He fled north, toward the mountains, 2 years ago. Nobody knows what happened to him. You pass the ruins of the pottery workshop on the east side of the village. It burned during the initial conquest, not Mongol fire, but a local panic. These things happen in the chaos of transition. The potter's family now works your fields. You feed them. They feed you. This is an arrangement as old as agriculture itself. You reach your field. The winter wheat is knee-high. You kneel and press the soil between your fingers. Dry on top, damp below. You will need to open the secondary channel today. A rider passes on the road above your field. He is a Mongol courier, moving at full gallop toward the relay station 12 kilometers to the east. He does not look at you. You do not look at him. This is the new social contract. At midday, the ortak merchant's representative arrives at the village. He is a local man, he speaks your language, wears your kind of clothes, drinks tea the way you drink it. He does not need to threaten. He simply reads a number from a scroll, and everyone pays it. Last year the number was manageable. This year it is higher. The merchant's representative shrugs and says the Khan's campaigns in the west have increased administrative costs. You do not know where the west is. You do not know that at this exact moment, Mongol armies are crossing the Caucasus Mountains into the lands that will one day be called Russia. You do not know that the same administrative system taxing your wheat is funding the largest coordinated military campaign the medieval world has ever seen. You know only your field. You know only the water. Here is the counterintuitive truth that historians have wrestled with for a century. The Mongol Empire, in the regions where it stabilized, produced one of the most remarkable eras of trade and movement in pre-modern history. The Silk Road, the network of overland trade routes connecting China to the Mediterranean, functioned more freely and safely under Mongol rule than at almost any other point in its history. The historian Janet Abu Lughad, in her 1989 study Before European Hegemony, documented how the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace, a term used to describe the relative stability across the empire from roughly 1250 to 1350 CE, allowed merchants, scholars, diplomats, and travelers to cross Eurasia with a security that would not be seen again until the modern era. Marco Polo traveled the Silk Road during this period. Ibn Battuta traveled it later. The plague that devastated Europe in 1347 traveled it too, carried west along the same trade routes the Mongolian system had made faster and safer. So the empire that threatened to destroy your world also stitched it together. The geography that made the conquest possible, the steppe highway, the relay stations, the mountain corridors, also made the trade possible. And the trade made you, as a surviving farmer in the Fergana Valley, slightly richer than you were before. Slightly. If your canal was intact. If your administrator was not too greedy. If the plague did not come. This is what survival inside an empire means. It is never clean. It is never a single story of resistance or collaboration or prosperity or ruin. It is always a negotiation with geography, with power, and with the particular morning you happen to wake up in. Now here is the modern mirror. The Fergana Valley today is split between three nations, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan. The borders were drawn by Soviet planners in 1924 and 1936, specifically designed, as historian Sergei Abashin has documented, to divide ethnic groups across national lines, making any one group dependent on Moscow for resolution of their disputes. The same valley. The same irrigation canals. A different empire's logic, encoded in red ink on a map. The water that flows through your field in 2024 is contested by three governments. The crops grown in that valley feed millions of people. The borders that cross it were drawn without reference to the hydraulic system underneath them, the same hydraulic system Karl Wittfogel warned us was always political. The Mongol administrator with his Paisi is gone. But the logic of the canal, whoever controls the water controls everything, has never left. You woke up this morning in whatever city or town you live in, turned on a tap, and did not think about the infrastructure behind it. You did not think about who built it, who controls it, or what happens to the people downstream when the water stops. For the farmers of the Fergana Valley in 1230 CE, that was not an abstract question. It was Tuesday.